Okay, so this is
Okay, so continue.
so this is Jacob Proctor interviewing Cory Arcangel from his home in Stavanger, Norway, for the Smithsonian Institution's Archives of American Arts Oral History Pandemic Project. And this is August 14th, 2020. So, Cory, thank you so much for talking with us, or with me, for this project. I guess the big question, I mean, you've been outside the U.S. for the full length of the pandemic, and I mean, I guess the big question is how are you, and how has it been for you and your family and your studio?
Yeah,
That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a really big question. Yeah, I was in New York City up until 2 weeks before the pandemic kind of was really on people's radar. I mean, it was in New York City in February. People had it, but it wasn't yet. I guess people weren't paying attention enough to realize what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
We came back in February, at the end of February, and then just 2 weeks later, then Norway was kind of locked down. Anyway, we're doing, I mean, good. My family is doing good. We're here in Stavanger, Norway, on the southwest coast of Norway. Norway was really super active in their response. It happened right away. And Norway has like a really specific culture and structure that means that when the prime minister like gives directions, like the entire country from top to bottom, like a Christmas tree, follows the directions. And also Norway doesn't have a lot of people. There's a lot of space, and the Norwegians they don't like to get so close to each other anyway. So things here, things have been, so it was like, it's been pretty good here in Stavanger. Oslo's a little different, but in general, Norway handled it really well. You know, professionally though, my studio is still in New York. So when I left New York 5 years ago, I left in a kind of hurry, and I just left my studio running because it didn't make any sense to dismantle it. And over the last 5 years, me and my studio learned to work remotely. And so the studio is the thing that has been complicated because it's been closed, physically been closed since March. And I think for me, the priority has been actually mostly on the kind of health and well-being of the people, my staff, like just trying to understand what they're going through and how to just run the studio at the same time as dealing with all of the kind of anxiety. So yeah, anxiety and you know, my staff kind of dispersed around the United States. So yeah, this is like a very long and complicated answer. So
it's a complicated situation.
Yeah, I would say it disrupted, at this point, it disrupted my studio more than it disrupted my personal life. Because like after 2 months of like pretty hard quarantine, Norway basically went back to normal. You wouldn't really be able to know anything. So much was different. But then again, at the same time, I'm going to work during the week and I'm negotiating, my studio life, which is complicated. Though what I will say is, when I was in New York in January and February, the 3 young people who work for me, we decided together that they no longer wanted to go to the studio anymore. So we already kind of like conceptually, and we're already in the process of kind of dismantling our physical space when Corona hit. So we weren't really caught flat-footed in terms of infrastructure. We had already kind of moved everything to the cloud.
Oh, wow.
And that's just because they didn't want to, I guess they're a different generation than me or than us. And
Yeah.
they just like, didn't, they were like, why should we go to the office anymore? Like, why are we spending 40 minutes on the subway and one way and then 40 minutes home and parking and lunch? And yeah, it made a lot of sense to me. And now, of course, it makes a lot of sense to everyone, I'm sure, because I think a lot of people like working from home.
Yeah, although, I mean, depends on whether those people have children or not.
Yeah. Yeah,
whether
that of course, I'm skipping the child part. That I guess I'm making it sound more rosy than it was. I think it was a lot of months without childcare, and that was intense, really hard. I mean, it's basically, and I'm going all over the place, Jacob. Is it okay? Like, I'm really swerving. I think, like, anyway, I gave you a kind of broad, rosy picture, but like now what I'm trying to remember, like the first few months, it was like when you're in hard quarantine, like when it was like hard quarantine, it's just a little bit like just accomplishing one thing a week, like without childcare, and with when you're like full geared up going to get groceries and everyone is like stressed out of their mind and you're not leaving your apartment, just accomplishing one thing a week was like a miracle. And by accomplishing something, I mean like maybe responding to some emails, you know, or sending off an image to a magazine. Like it was the kind of the ability to what would have been called to be productive was just totally different. And that was like for weeks and weeks and months, you know. And so me and my studio were kind of all working together, learning this new world of washing your hands. Like it just, everything took so much time all of a sudden. Yeah, and cooking, like so much cooking. You know, and so that I think it was just very strange from one day to the other, like for everything to shut off. And for me, I mean, I feel like I've been doing whatever process led to me being an artist and having a studio. It was 20 years of stable structures, a relatively stable industry, and all that, you know, along with all the difficulties that I'm talking about of like productivity, all those structures kind of vanished or evaporated or in the process of evaporating. So it just, I don't know, like everything became amorphous. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I felt, I mean, I spent also, you know, the months of hard quarantine I mean, I was in Berlin, so it was very different from New York, but yeah, I found exactly the same, you know, when it's like time, it felt a little bit like right after you have a baby and like time ceases to have any meaning for a while because every day just kind of blurs into the next and you don't get anything done.
It's a really good point. Yeah, like, having a baby. And although for me, it was like my daughter was old enough, so we were sleeping, which was interesting. Like, because when you first have a baby, you're not sleeping. Right. And so but it was exactly like that, except like you might maybe sleeping a little bit more. Yeah, and the days would just tumble around. And it felt like the rhythm was that of vacation where you eat and then you rest and then you start cooking and then you eat and then you rest for an hour and then you start cooking and then you rest, you know? And and then, you know, we moved, me and my wife and my daughter moved in the middle of that. And that I think helped us a lot because we moved around the corner. It was hard quarantine. And so what we did was we took 2 boxes a day and we rolled them over on a trolley. And so every day we took a little bit out of our old apartment and put it into our new apartment. And we did that for almost a month. And that somehow helped us like have some kind of task, like a goal and a task and something to do and somewhere to go that was easy because we just walked down the middle of the street and then took a right. And so at the same time we were doing that. But yeah, and eventually my studio came back online. Like I have 3 people who work in various part-time roles, and like eventually by, see, so even the months are hard to keep track of, you know, like it's going to be almost a whole, like it'll be soon like the winter again. Like a whole year will have evaporated basically. I think that will be like how it will be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
And so when did we start? Maybe it was May or June that we actually started, like kindergarten opened up again in Norway, and I was able to start coming to the office. And then we like produced a couple things, like we had a couple victories, and at that point a victory was just like project, like do something new and meet a deadline with another organization out, like some other you know, like, and we had a couple, like we did a mixtape for Issue Project Room, and we did a ad campaign for Louis Vuitton, and they just felt like enormous, huge victories. Like it felt really good to be able, and like, so we were working a lot slower, but maybe with more purpose and more focus than we had ever worked. And so that was kind of eye-opening for, I think, me and my office, because I think we had just been caught up for so long in like deadline, art fair deadline, plane, like we found some new pace that seemed like healthier. I don't know, like there was a really good thing that came out of it, where we found some kind of, like all the deadlines basically vanished, like shows vanished, like
because all the institutions were shut down also.
Yeah, exactly. So the institutions were shut down. We were supposed to have a show in Shanghai in March. That got canceled in February. So that got, because the pandemic first hit China in late, yeah, like December, January, February. Yeah, we were supposed to have a show, and that, like, our schedule was stacked for almost a year and a half, and everything evaporated during the year, and all that room, I don't know, like there was a good thing. What I'm trying to explain is like a good thing that came out of it, because we had space finally. For me, it was the first space that I probably had, I mean, maybe in 10 years, you know. I took some time off after my show at the Whitney to have some, but I hadn't, so it was kind of good in a way.
Yeah, the lack of the sort of the short circuiting of continuous partial awareness to cite one of your previous exhibition titles.
Yeah, and I think also, yeah, totally, like, and the industry, like the industry also changed so much over the last 10 years. And then when it's constantly changing, you don't realize how much it's changed. And since I was inside, like the galleries all got so big, and then they're all emailing you like 1 million requests a week, and everything just like sped up. And so in that respect, it's been really good for like to have it shut off like that. I think that was definitely a plus. I mean, it's a plus for the work. It's not a plus for the industry. It's I don't know what will happen to a lot of parts of the industry. It's there with everything good that I'm saying. I should caveat it with saying that there is like this existential dread, like behind everything. You know, any like money, like health, like. So it's just this weird thing, and like it's kind of negotiating. Yeah, you're like, you're just trying to negotiate everything at the same time. Like, what am I trying to say? Like, yeah, like at the beginning, you're worried about your health and staying healthy. And then like all these things that you didn't have to worry about all of a sudden are like these fundamental things are a worry. And so then in order to work on top of that is like super complicated. And that's why I'm saying like these victories that we had felt so significant because they're on top of all this just complete mess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're having, I mean, everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people had to, when you have to essentially rethink all of the most basic aspects of your life,
Yeah.
things that you just do completely unconsciously and
Yeah.
automatically as a normally high functioning adult. When even those things you have to relearn, then it makes everything on top of them feel like that much more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like walking and chewing gum. If you have to relearn how to walk also.
Yeah, exactly. Singing, like playing guitar and singing at the same time. And yeah, and especially because it's like I've been doing this like professionally like for 20 years or almost 20 years. And so everything was so second nature to me, and to have it all kind of break apart was really a kind of really eye-opening experience, you know, like and it's not only like breaking apart like my own day-to-day idea of like what am I doing, but also yeah, the industry is breaking apart, like galleries are vanishing, institutions are vanishing, like you know, people are all of a sudden becoming hyper aware of internet art, which is like, so there are also like good things that are happening, and like so all these things are just shifting, you know. I mean, overall, I feel like I regard without with of course this existential dread and this physical stuff, like the art, like my ideas of art, and I've been feeling like pretty more positive than I had before. I feel like all this uncertainty creates like opportunities somehow, and it feels a lot like it did when I started. Like just seems like everything is open all of a sudden, and like anything is possible because there are like anything is possible now in a way because there the infrastructure is uncertain. Like the infrastructure of contemporary art is so uncertain right now, is that which I think means it's, for me, it's easier to think that anything is possible and you could just do anything right now because there is no magnet. There is not much of a magnet to kind of suck on, to kind of magnet being like, there's not like a river to just jump into and go with the flow anymore. Like, so that I've been feeling pretty good about. Like, I feel like it's all opening and everything's open again.
I think that's a perfect, that's a perfect way to wrap up. I think that's
Okay.
I mean, it's a very interesting moment, and I think actually that you're one of the only people that I've heard phrase it in an optimistic way that way, and so I think that's super interesting.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm in beautiful, tiny Southwest Norway.
Well, maybe it's because you have perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I mean, we could wrap it up where you wanted to wrap it up, but that's something I learned being in Norway for 5 years. Is they're so far away from the